Biggest African and international news stories. Focus on Africa.
Hello, I am Peter Okwoche. Welcome to Focus on Africa. Our top stories. Sparking an economic recovery across Africa. Could free trade zones be the answer? A high-powered meeting in Abuja seeks to unlock their potential. The ANC postpones discussing the future of South Africa's president after evidence of misconduct was found over cash hidden at his farm. Also on the program, hunger in Somalia. Britain's development minister raises the alarm as he announces urgent support for the East African country.
We have to make sure that we are averting the worst to come in terms of famine. We have to make sure that the children who are malnourished, are 1.8 million, are rescued.
And at the World Cup in Qatar, there is no revenge for Ghana as they are knocked out of the World Cup by Uruguay. Thanks for joining us on BBC World News. Now, how can African countries exploit the opportunities presented by the Continental Free Trade Act? This is the focus of a gathering of continental and international organizations on trade and special economic zones in Abuja. The high-level meeting under the platform of the African Union and the African Economic Zones Organization is seeking ways on how countries on the continent can work together using the special economic zones to promote exports and industrial growth. The BBC's Chris Auc was at the meeting and sent this report.
Special economic zones have long been touted as an effective way to ramp up foreign direct investment, increase trade, and provide jobs for developing and developed countries alike. In Africa, the first special economic zone was unveiled in Mauritius in 1970, followed by Ghana and Senegal, and according to the United Nations, by 2020, there were 237 in 38 of the continent's 54 countries. But how effective have they been in attaining their objectives? Not very, some would argue.
This conference is trying to promote economic zones within countries in Africa. Free trade zones are where business laws differ from other parts of the country, making it easier for foreign investments and job creation. We all should support, as Africans, not only governments, not only public sectors initiative, but also the private sectors and the civil society should also join efforts in order to support the implementation of the CFTA, which is a tremendous opportunity for all Africans, not only to enhance trade performance between African countries, but also to develop industrial complementarity between the countries.
In August 2019, for instance, Nigeria, the largest economy in the western sub-region, shut its land border to goods from neighboring Benin, Cameroon, Chad, and Niger, thus disrupting trade in the ECOWAS region for a year and a half.
It's an ongoing process, and we're looking forward to the full benefits of this agreement, which indeed will deepen inter-trade, African intra-trade.
Experts say the African Special Economic Zones are considered one of the main instruments that stimulate economic reforms, promote quality foreign direct investments, and accelerate industrialization across the continent. With the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, member countries are now keen to harness the opportunity through their economic zones to work together as the continent merge into a single market of 1.3 billion people. Chris Auc, BBC News, Abuja, Nigeria.
Let's get more on this story now. I'm joined by Dele Ayemibo, an international trade specialist. He's also the CEO of 3T Impex Consulting Limited. He joins us from Lagos, Nigeria. Dele, correct me if I'm wrong, but these free economic zones don't seem to have lived up to expectations when they were set up. What are the challenges they face?
Very correct. They're not living up to expectation because of the vision of those that started it. And the vision basically is it seems as if we are celebrating the inflow of foreign direct investment and not how the impact has percolated into the society, reducing poverty, hunger, and inequality, which is one of the opportunities that that trade can make possible, talking about the sustainable development goals. So indeed, you're correct. We've really not seen the impact the way it should be. And my opinion is the vision behind it seems to me like we just want to attract foreign direct investment, not to see how it can percolate down to the populace to be able to have impact on the continent.
But it seems when you talk to the people who set them up and who actually do run them, they say government is not helping them enough. So apart from, for instance, tax breaks, because they do get tax breaks, what other kind of help can they be getting from governments?
Infrastructure development to facilitate export. Like I said, you know, a situation in which you set up a free trade and you are allowing them to ship 100% of the good into the country, rather for it to be export-facing, in which you give more incentive to those that are shipping the good out of that geographical zone, is a challenge for me. Because in Nigeria, for example, it's called the Nigeria Export Processing Zone. That intention, that shows that the intention was for it to be for export, but that's not the case. They see selling the product, majority of them coming into the country. So infrastructure to be able to facilitate and support export, I think would be a very much important.
Indeed, and with other bodies, regional bodies like ECOWAS and the East African community, as well as SADC in South Africa, as well as the Africa Free Trade, Africa Continental Trade Agreement, which has come on board now, should it make business easier for these free zones, or is it making things more difficult?
No, it's not making it difficult. It's going to make it easier, but we must be deliberate of what we want to achieve. So, for example, there should be a plug-in between the free zones and the Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement. And that can be achieved through an intra-continental value chain. So, for example, Africa produces 75% of cocoa export in the world. Why can't we have an intra-continental value chain for the production of chocolate? So some country produce the cocoa, transport it to other countries that will produce it into butter, and from butter into whatever final product it is. And that can work for other products on the continent. So we have different economic zones on the continent that are adding value, supplying to other economic zone on the continent to finish product for it to be sold either on the continent or outside the continent.
Okay, Dele Ayemibo, he's an international trade specialist. Thank you very much for your insight into this story. Thank you.